to many, rather, artificial intelligence is a relatively new thing, but it's been around for decades here. So now the buzz around AI is larger than ever, thanks to tailwinds from ChatGPT, which has seen its usership explode since it opened for public testing in late November. But is the AI hype cycle nearing its peak, or is the round of AI developments just the start of even wider adoption? So to help us answer these questions, let's bring in and get to Identity.com CEO and Apple App Store's founding director, Phillip Shoemaker. Phillip, great to have you here with us today. Help us go further into this conversation of where to next in terms of the early phases of generative AI and where that adoption and even user cases are starting to emerge.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a long time since we had an AI hype cycle like this, right? I think it was the 80s when people like Gary Hendricks and Marvin Minsky were pushing this, and there was all this investment in AI in the 80s, and it went absolutely nowhere. So I'm happy to finally see it resurrecting, and we're seeing a lot of use cases now in things that are a little simpler to solve, like machine vision. Being able to recognize a person, being able to recognize faces, being able to recognize different types of products and people in general and objects. So machine vision is coming along really far. But the big thing I think we're seeing is that the internet has this boom of this data capture, right? Where all our data is being captured all the time. And that makes it amazing for AIs to be able to train. I mean, as you just heard from the ChatGPT stuff, it depends on what you train it on. If you're training it on only wokeism, all you're going to get out of it is wokeism, right? So you need to train it on everything out there so it generates its own opinions and you get some good data on it.
And one of the things you said in your notes to us that was interesting is that no AI company has ever turned a profit. I mean, of course, many of the companies doing AI now are already very profitable at other stuff. Right, so that seems to be changing the calculation a little bit. We had just put up on the screen a minute ago some of what you're dubbing the potential winners in this group, and some of those are examples, like an Nvidia or AMD. Yeah. How are they going to capitalize on this? Why are they going to be winners?
Well, these guys, I think just like in the crypto space, the biggest winners have been those that are working on picks and shovels, like in the gold rush, right? Don't actually go and mine the gold. Create the genes, create the picks, create the shovels, and those are the companies that have long-lasting value. And in this case, companies like AMD and these chip makers, AMD, et cetera, of course, Microsoft and Google, Alphabet, but these chip manufacturers are the ones that are making it really easy to be able to handle and power these AI systems. So I think the picks and shovels makers in the AI space, much like in the crypto space, are the ones that you should hold on to because they're going to generate a big profit. Now, what I said about that pure AI companies, right? Historically, since the 80s, people have been investing a lot in AI, and it's given us little teeny improvements here and there. This has been a long time research effort for most of these AI companies that we're only starting to see fruition. So the ROI on these things is incredibly long. But these chip manufacturers, these ones that are leading the way there and starting to build their own tools and their own AIs to boot, are the ones that I think we're going to see great success with.
Phillip, you mentioned before the AI companies looking to maybe build in something like wokeism or whatever it is. Are there any safeguards being put in place to prevent biases like that?
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues that we're seeing is that I think most are going to be putting in safeguards. But here's the problem with any sort of war, right? And the AI wars have just begun. And I don't mean AIs and Terminator type of thing. I'm talking about just these companies that are battling against each other to have the strongest AI out there. So what's going to happen is they're going to start adding features too quickly that have unintended consequences and could be dangerous, right? So imagine if the ChatGPT was trained on saying things like saying that like 9/11 is fake or that vaccines are bad. That could be really detrimental to the environment, to our survival as well. So I think that's one of the biggest things is that we don't know what safeguards there are. We don't have any laws or regulations in place that tell these companies what safeguards to put in. But boy, we need something along those lines because we find that if you don't regulate it, if you don't have a policy, these things can get out of hand.
Phil, it sounds like we're overgeneralizing the use of wokeism and kind of truncating a few topics together. So just to be super clear about this, there are things that have definitively happened in history that we know for a fact are bad or have other factual elements that are around them that we all know to be true, but the interpretation has been misguided or in some case perversely used. So how can we ensure that that is not something that makes it into generative AI?
Yeah, there's two types of training of these AI systems. And as I said, we have so much data out there that we can train a lot of good AIs. But there's two types of training. One is supervised and one is unsupervised. The unsupervised training is what you're seeing now. You're seeing ChatGPT and others just accessing a lot of data, grokking it, understanding it, getting it into their vernacular, getting them to understand it. That causes a problem because if they just go strictly based on the information that's out there, we know there's a lot of falsities out there, a lot of lies that people have spread on the internet. And so people need to supervise and say, this is true, this is false, and put it into the system. And that's difficult to do. Having a lot of data means that you have to have a lot of people sort through that data and make determinations on what's accurate and what's false. And sometimes us humans make those incorrect statements. I mean, if you look at history lessons, a lot of our children get these history lessons wrong. They don't know what happened in the past is factual. But look, if they start bringing in real history books and things along those lines and start understanding that, we'll be in a better place. So it's all about supervised training of the AI.
Identity.com Executive Director and Founding Director of the Apple App Store, Phillip Shoemaker. Good to see you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.